Mr. Westerman from Arkansas is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the panel for such an enlightening testimony. I would also like to especially thank the chairman for holding this hearing, and it's such an important topic. I believe that getting Americans back to work and out of poverty is the main key in unlocking our economy, which is critical to rectifying our fiscal deficiencies and our out-of-control debt. Also, I believe that work is what we can use to pull people out of a pool of poverty, and I believe that our current federal policies are such that we're turning a pool into an ocean with a tide that's dragging people further out to sea. As I travel my district and talk to employers, I get a consistent, disturbing message. They have job openings that start well above minimum wage that they just can't fill. They tell me there are 3 problems. People don't have the skills and education they need. People don't have the work ethic, social skills, and attention to basic details, such as showing up to work consistently and on time. And finally, the employers can't compete with the federal government, meaning that the programs and benefits offered by the federal government incentivize people not to work. I believe we have failed our citizens' needs in 3 areas. Number 1, we've done a poor job preparing our citizens, whether through failing K-12 education, expensive higher ed that doesn't teach what they need, or a lack of emphasis on vocational ed and job training. Number 2, in addition to failing to teach the hard skills, too many Americans lack the softer life skills necessary to thrive in the workforce. As many employers across the country report difficulties with timeliness, professionalism, absenteeism, substance abuse, and other important work ethic skills. I believe these skills are best learned through strong family units. Finally, we have a welfare system that doesn't actually meet individuals' needs. There is an unfortunate tendency to assume that people stay on welfare out of laziness or in an effort to avoid the discomfort and logistical difficulties that work can impose. But in truth, for many living on welfare, life is complicated and hard, and the ability to show up at work every day while navigating the bureaucratic ropes of child care, transportation, and health care is difficult, especially when combined with a fear that work will never pay off for them and they'll be unable to move into a better situation. So we address the challenges with bureaucratically formulated checks to provide for what we assume they need. We incentivize not working and provide just enough of a net to keep individuals afloat, but we're not meeting them where they are to help them get off the net and on their feet. My state expanded Medicaid benefits to able-bodied working-age adults through the Affordable Care Act. It has nothing to do with traditional Medicaid for the aged, blind, disabled, and children. 40% of the able-bodied working-age adults in my state, that's about 100,000 people, are receiving free Medicaid health care services, and they reported 0 earned income. There is no doubt that work works. We see some slides up here. This first one is just simply showing the need for welfare reform. When we look at the 171% increase in enrollment in the SNAP program since 2000, 50% of able-bodied adult households have no earned income, 75% of childless adult households have no earned income, and 50% of parent households have no earned income. If we look at the next slide, we see the success story of what happened in Kansas when they implemented work requirements for able-bodied childless adults in 2013. 50% immediate decline in enrollment, 68% long-term decline in enrollment, and you can see the benefits of work there. Work is overwhelmingly bipartisan. Republican Americans, Democratic Americans, Independent Americans, by well over 2/3 think work is good. And actually, the last substantive welfare reforms occurred under a Democratic president from my state and a Republican Congress. So, Mr. Doar, what are some ways to extend the success of the 1996 welfare law to other programs?
Well, I thank you for the question, and I agree with the premise. Some of the lessons from welfare reform are still true today and are applicable, and I think we've gotten away from them. And one of the lessons is that programs that provide assistance need to be talking to the applicant about employment and about work and about an expectation that they go to work or participate in work-like activities. And SNAP does not do that sufficiently. There's very little attention to work in SNAP program. And the SNAP program has grown dramatically, and I saw it in New York City grow, and I was hoping it was supporting working New Yorkers. But to some extensive extent, it was not. They were not reporting earnings. So the first thing is a work expectation or a work requirement in other programs.
Gentlemen.
Another important part of the welfare reform legislation was child support enforcement focus, a much bigger focus on child support enforcement. And as I mentioned in my testimony, other programs have very little attention to the support the other parent could provide to that household. And I don't want to burden them, I don't want to overwhelm them, I don't want to make them have a disincentive to work, but I do think we should ask, is there some support from that other parent we could get for someone who's seeking assistance?
Gentlemen's time has expired.